Robert Kraig, Executive Director of Citizen Action of Wisconsin, talking with us about Citizen Action's new campaign, Radio Active, which will monitor conservative talk radio in Milwaukee and explore launching a community-owned progressive talk station in Milwaukee.
And so what we're interested in looking at here is how to break that monopoly and how to have balance. And it's entirely different than, say, Wisconsin Public Radio. Your next guest will probably say that Wisconsin Public Radio is the liberal alternative. As you know, we will both be on this show, Joy, so that is very different. Wisconsin Public Radio is rigorous in its providing all points of view. I have never been on any of the right-wing radio shows in Milwaukee, despite over a decade and a half of work here. I mean, if you look at the major TV stations in Milwaukee, you look at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, no fair-minded person would consider them liberal. By liberal or progressive, say, having the point of view that I'm expressing here. Do they take a lockstep far-right view? No, and that's how they define liberal. Anything that's not exactly what they want and they believe is defined as liberal, basically. So I would call that a bait and switch.
Gordon in Wisconsin Rapids is with us first. Hi, Gordon.
Hi, good morning, Joy. See, I'm a little disappointed with your Robert Kraig here. He's talking about Milwaukee radio being racist. I mean, I've been listening to Charlie Sykes for years, and I've never heard him be racist at all. He's very informative, and it's a good program, and it's really disappointing.
Are you calling the hosts in particular racist, Robert Kraig?
Talk about poor people who are dependent on government. Conservative white voters understand that to mean African-American people, just for example. And so if you listen to Charlie Sykes, it's a very carefully crafted code, but it creates those kind of divisions. And the denial that the caller is expressing, that is exactly part of it. In other words, you're able to act on a racist impulse while not feeling you're being racist at all. And a lot of the audience doesn't know it, quite frankly. It wouldn't work if the audience felt it was racist. So in many ways, your caller is an example of how effective it is. If you listen to right-wing radio in Milwaukee, and you can flip around every morning or afternoon, it is rigorously pro-Scott Walker. It is rigorously pro-a Republican winning the White House, and it sets up issues over time to eventually elect far-right candidates. And the people you see in the legislature from southeast Wisconsin and Governor Walker are shaped by that. And so it's a very different thing. We don't see any reason to monitor Wisconsin Public Radio, though, quite frankly, if there was a problem there, we certainly would look at it. But we have not identified that as a problem. It is, the southeast Wisconsin, Joy, is a very diverse area. A lot of Democrat voters in southeast Wisconsin. The idea that there would not be one commercial progressive talk radio host and that we've had only the far right represented shows an incredible distortion in the market and a distortion in kind of the public square where we make decisions and how we work together as citizens in a democracy.
We'll talk with a guest from Media Trackers who wrote a piece on this entitled Citizen Action Declares War on Conservative Talk Radio. Robert Kraig, are you declaring war on conservative talk radio?
We're declaring war on there being a right-wing monopoly. We're perfectly fine with that perspective being on the public airwaves. It's a matter of there being nothing else.
Chad in New Berlin is with us. Hello, Chad.
I'm really hoping at some point, Joy, you tell us that this is a giant early April Fool's program. This, Robert, is the epitome of the elitist leftist stereotype. He couldn't be more stereotypical if he wanted.
Well, I want you, Chad, to address his concern that there's only conservative talk radio in Milwaukee, and he thinks it should be balanced or countered. What do you say to that specifically?
Well, two things. First of all, he's telling me as a conservative I'm not smart enough to recognize the code words that he, as the progressive, has to tell me when these things are being said. And he fails to remember that it is a commercial radio station. It's only going to be listened to if it has a message people want to hear. There was a progressive radio station in Madison. In fact, it was called Air America. It was a progressive network.
Point that you think he's dumb and he can't think for himself.
It's not about whether Charlie Sykes' listeners or Mark Belling's listeners can think for themselves. It's a matter of whether we provide on the public airwaves some level of balance and some diversity of opinion. And so it's quite frankly, if he shouldn't worry about that if he thinks his perspective is right. It's fascinating that that the only way to respect his point of view seems to be to allow only his point of view to be broadcast on the public airwaves.